Hi, everyone. So we are continuing with the Future of Work series. And today we've got a very exciting guest, Madelaine, all the way from South Africa. So Madelaine, she was a director of a top 10 HR companies in South Africa, where she spent 20 years helping professionals. She worked there for 20 years. And now she's helping professionals to break free from cycles of self-sabotage so that they can lead the best life. And Madelaine and I met just over a year ago at an event, in South African events, and we just had this, I guess, common interest and passion on how to bridge the spiritual and corporate worlds. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to you, Madelaine, so you can introduce yourself and tell people what is it that you're doing now. And yeah, I'm very excited for our conversation today.
Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me. And I think this is a wonderful initiative that you are doing and very needed going forward, future of work. I've been a director of a top 10 company for 20 years. I developed unemployed truck drivers into winning workforces, and I partnered with only major companies, which led to staff takeovers and a full operational HR service for everyone. So I led various teams, 5 branches, at times 700 truck drivers for 20 years. And then life happened to me. I lost my husband during that time and so on. So I ended up asking, who am I? I knew I'm not the director, but who am I under all these layers? So I wanted to know, who am I? And that started my journey into metaphysical science, pranic healing, mindset alchemy, and spiritual teachings. It led me on a path of self-discovery underneath all the layers that we put on ourselves in business and the skills that we think we are. We are more human underneath those layers. I wanted to know for myself, who's this human underneath the layers? Because up to then, I was always performing and never ever gave myself the opportunity just to be me. And performing up to everybody's expectations around me and to be successful. So it was pressurized, and I sat at that moment and I knew that's not who I am. And that started my journey. So a long story short, it led to many other awakenings about myself and experiences, divine experiences that I've had. So now I'm leading professionals to who am I inside of them, connecting to their purpose. Because if we see purpose in what we do, and you don't need to resign to be in your purpose, but if you see purpose in what you do, you love what you do, and the quality of your work and what you do is totally different from just thinking you're doing a job.
And it is such an important question, isn't it? Who am I? I think that's like the core of everything. And I know a lot of people are asking themselves now that big question, but I think a lot of them just stay there. And it's like, who am I? Who am I? And they just don't make the progress. So I know we've got a couple of questions lined up for you, but I just quickly wanted to ask you, like, what actually gave you that drive to move from such a successful career and to start something new? Because as I said, through my interactions, I speak to people and they're scared to take that leap of faith. Like, what inspired you to do that?
It is very scary, because when you ask, who am I, you open a door in heaven with your name on and your files and your imprints. That door you can never close again. You can't go back to your past. So, and that is why people are getting stuck between yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And they fall into the gap, and then they go into the dark night of their soul. And I was there, that's why I know. So it's not an easy decision, because the life, when you ask, who am I, looks totally different from the life that you know. Totally. I've not met one person that said, oh, it's very much the same as what I've done before. No, it takes you out of your ego in total. Director, ego. Yes, I was fantastically good in that time. I was at the forefront of human transformation at the same time, while I was building a business that was a top 10. But it's all ego driven at the end of the day when you introduce yourself. Going to who am I There's no ego in that, because you have to go into the base of your heart and find out who you are. So it's no easy transition at all, because you have to let go of layers and layers and layers of conditional beliefs and thinking that's been built up over the years. But just imagine this, those layers of thinking is actually the layers of self-sabotage within you. And those are the layers that you had to fight to get to where you are. So although you might think that you're successful in your job because you might achieve certain goals, you still have the self-sabotage in you. You still have the preconditioning beliefs in you. You still have to think, or you still think you're not good enough. You have to push harder. You still don't know who you truly are within yourself. You still don't know. If I ask you what's your purpose, you're going to say, I don't know. And all of us got a purpose at the end of the day. So it's it's a journey of cleansing your soul. It's cleansing the past. It's letting go of all the hurt from the past, all the disappointments, all the trauma from the past, finding who you are and how can you bring that forth in everything that you do.
Madelaine, so I think you touched upon it, but let's see if we can just narrow it down. So what does spirituality means to you?
Spirituality means to me, it's the living, you live your beliefs. For me, it's connecting to God and live my beliefs. So I am not into a specific God. I talk about God energy. We all, basically, doesn't matter what we believe in God. So what we call God is different things. It can be the universe, it can be source, it can be Allah, it can be different names. But we all have some energy that we're holding on, and we are created from somewhere. So for me, spirituality, it means living literally what I believe and what I say. So, it's not like it's just put away for one day a week, or it's judging people because the Bible says so and the Bible said so. No, it is about being that person with a light within your heart every moment of the day.
So let me see if I understood it. So for you, spirituality is actually expressing your authentic self.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Totally.
And how do you see that play a role in the future of work and spirituality and connected to organizations?
I feel if organizations take spirituality into the company, their staff would be far more centered. They would not compete with each other because they don't need to prove anything, because they know they are worthy. They have the skills, they understand their skills that are serving them better, instead of just taking on all the skills, and actually most of the skills they take on is not really their strength. And I also feel it will help with anxiety and depression, because they are under pressure because of the competition within the business and the fear of losing your job and the disconnect between management and staff. So management might all the time push for performance and push for money, when the staff feel they are pushed to be overworked. But all of this is a misalignment in business. So I think if you bring spirituality into business, what is spirituality? It's a positive mindset. It's aligning with your skills. It's aligning with your strengths. It's aligning your job with your passions. It's bringing purpose in what you do. It's respecting each other. It's living from high values. And then that brings forth a different kind of performance.
And how do you, because I used to be CEO of a multi-geographical high-tech company. I had over 200 employees. And when I'm listening to you, I'm saying, what can you tell leaders, okay, managers, leaders, by the end of the day, organization most likely are incorporated for gain. That's what we do. This is what we incorporate. So how do you give me a recommendation to bridge that?
Well, how do you get to your gain? You need people to get to your gain. So why not align people with their best holistic side and make it pleasurable for them to work, and then the gains will be more. Nobody's in it for nothing. But if you can make the environment holistic and you can allow people to step into their full potential and purpose, you will actually have more gain.
So
And also believe, can I just quickly say, and I also think, you know, what you said, spirituality in a workplace, is it eliminates that comparison, right? I mean, how often we actually self-sabotage ourselves because we don't understand uniquely what is it that we need to thrive. So we try to keep up with someone else, and that creates judgment, competition, and that self-awareness gives you that sense of worthiness, like what you say. So instead of then competing, we actually start collaborating.
That is the exact thing, because if you're competing, you're creating a toxic environment, because now you're criticizing each other and you're absolutely working against each other. That's when you compete, because there must be a winner. But if you complement each other's skills, it's a different story. Then you've got all your pieces in the pie are beautifully flowing and everybody is happy. So the environment is of such where you can create abundance and you can actually increase your abundance.
So let me see if I understood it correctly. For our audience, I just want to make sure that we're clear. So your message is that in order to motivate people, you're not recommending, of course, on comparing and stress and so on. You are actually recommending that we will motivate people, leaders will motivate people from actually authentic self in alignment with their goal, their passions, and what make their heart sing.
Exactly. Because we at the office, we feed the quantum field. So whatever collectively goes on in the office goes into the quantum field, which is the business. So if you want your business to thrive, you need to feed the quantum field with the right information to bring back that information. So if you want to really compare and look at how successful your business is, have a look and see what is your staff turnover for last year, what did you pay into agencies to keep on recruiting, what did you pay into keep on training your people to become to fulfill that job just to leave later, or what did you pay for people to redo tasks and projects because they were not aligned or they didn't do it well and they didn't believe in themselves. So if you look at the damage of cost in companies, it might be far more than the profit. And by just looking at the profit in a company is a very small view to have in a business. Have to look at all aspects and compare that and see where can I improve in the negative to bring it all into the positive.
Makes sense. So I think it's a good place that now you will tell us, so what do you do now? How that all of those things combine together to what do you do right now?
Well, I work with people from all walks of life. I work with leaders. I work with women. I work with women that's abused. I work with students. I work with youth. And it's all about teaching everyone who am I. Finding yourself, finding your unique strengths, your unique skills, and your unique passions, and bring all of that together into one. And that is what you deliver. So, for instance, I'm very good at designing businesses and finding loopholes in flows where they lose energy and they lose profit. But I'm excellent in training people and developing people into be their best version of themselves. So what do you do that you really enjoy? Companies might have a person in their training and development that's not really passionate about the betterment of other people. They're just doing it as a job. What if you can find a purpose within you that makes you the teacher? They don't see that way. They see the title. But are you really a teacher at heart? Do you enjoy seeing the light going on within people? Or do you present workshops where, and I've heard about this, where the staff are sitting in a workshop and they can't wait to get out. They sleep, they draw pictures on a piece of paper, they send their messages on the phone because this is so boring. what is the point of doing that? That's wasted money in the company. So I lead people to their true potential. And how can they apply that into what they do? But I also lead people who's been through trauma, who self-sabotage the same journey. Who are you? You know, you still have to find yourself, and you still need to develop a new life from there on.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, like, how do you, because you mentioned there's quite a few modalities that you're using, like pranic healing and a few others. So can you just share with us, like, what this journey may look like?
First of all, it's identifying the roots that is actually tripping you up, that's leading you to self-sabotage. We all self-sabotage in one way or the other. So what are the roots that's causing you challenges in life? Because the challenges takes us back to the roots. The roots takes us back to identify where and when that happened, so that we can identify that, alchemize that, heal it, and turn it into your strength. Instead of being your wound, it becomes your strength. We do not learn any strengths within inside of us when life is good. We only learn it when we are being pushed into a corner, when we are emotionally pushed. So now what we do by human nature is we're holding on to the wounds that's wounding us more and allowing the wound to bleed. And it's actually, we're losing energy through that and power. But when you turn that wound into your superpower, that wound actually taught you wisdom. And you can only fly once you have wisdom. You can't do it any other way. And wisdom only comes from wounds, no other way.
Couldn't agree more. Well said.
Totally agree. Let's dive in a little bit to groups or whatever you do within the organization. Are you doing that same process in organization? Can you explain, provide a little bit of details how that is actually done?
Yes, I've done this for 20 years with the truck drivers, and then I've done it with students, and I've done it with companies. It depends on which group they want to train and develop first. I would suggest to do the leadership first, because leadership leads. People copy leaders. We all copy and learn from what we see as an example. So in a company, the leadership team is the team that actually sets the tone for the development of the staff, for the performance of the staff and the behavior of the staff. Whether they like it or not, they are responsible for that. So if the performance of the staff is not up to standard, it's your leadership team. If the behavior of the staff is not really aligned with the values of the company, it's the leadership team. So I would start with a leadership team, because as they click and change into this holistic, beautiful leadership team that gel and that work together, and they found each one that they are in their strengths and in their purpose within the team, that will cipher through to all staff, and it will ignite the spark in the staff to be more motivated and to be inspired, to be more accountable, and all the wonderful things that we would like to see in staff, all the wonderful words that we use in corporate, but it doesn't happen. So it's the leadership team that needs to discover themselves first and apply that in what they do, and then the rest will follow.
Yeah.
Curious to know, sorry, Lena, what happens if you find a leader that is not in his purpose within the management team? How does that go? Like, is people really open, like they're coming and they want to participate, and maybe through that process, they understand they achieved the title, the salary, the position, everything, but they're not in their purpose? Did you?
A lot.
You got it a lot, and how do you deal with that?
Well, you can never make a person change. They either want to do it or they don't want. But imagine there's 10 people and 8 are in their purpose, and they are holistic, and people just love them. 2 is going to be very unloved. So they work themselves out. Eventually, when you raise the energy within a business and the consciousness within the business, the ones who's not aligned with that will leave. And it's a blessing for the business because you're getting rid of the apples that's really not contributing towards the holistic wellness of the business, that's affecting the profit share.
Mm.
And tell you my frustration in this journey is when I'm talking to people and I can see and they are blocked to open in their mind. It doesn't mean they have to agree with me, but for me is to be open about new ideas. And Lena and I have this conversation a lot when I'm telling her, you see somebody that is in suffering. And, you know, even if that's not the situation, let's open it a little bit because I see the prison that you have built yourself. And that person doesn't want to change. And that is so that's part of what I go through as a pain in this journey when I see people don't want to open their mind and, you know, just accept that there is other way of thinking about stuff other than that prison they have built.
I've had clients like that. It makes it a bit harder in the beginning of the journey when you feel you talk to the wall and you're not breaking through, and they're just there because the company owner put them there because it's either you do this or you go because we can't cope with you anymore. And then they give them a last chance and say, do this, try this. If this is not working, then it's not. And I've had that. And I always had a breakthrough somewhere or the other because people fear change. So, and they don't know you and they don't know if they can trust you. And some of their stuff is deep and it's dark and it's personal and they don't want to open up because also it hurts them opening up and go back into that wound. So it's a sort of a conversation that takes place in a natural way. And then during that conversation, I found something said or done, and the divine just step in and open it for that moment. And in that moment, you might say one thing and that opens the door and that makes them a bit more curious. But it's everybody's choice. It's if they don't want to, it's not, you can't do anything. It's their journey. It will come maybe later when they're ready. The journey might be harder from there, you know, because they had an opportunity, because I do believe we all get opportunities as we go along. And if you don't take the opportunity, life is giving you an opportunity for a reason. It's going to become harder. So how hard do you want to get it? You know, it's a choice.
Definitely. So, Elena, I'm sorry. I was
No, that's cool.
in the way.
When you get in a flow of conversation, you want to ask this question before you forget it. So I typed mine down. As we're talking about leadership, what do you feel is the most important trait of leadership?
It's very difficult to say in these days, but compassion for sure. A leader to me is a teacher, and they forget it. They want to bark instructions, but they don't teach how to do it to get it to the way I want it. And I think that's what made me successful as a leader in the company, with my staff being termed as difficult and complex, which they were not, because everything I asked them, I showed them first. That was my winning recipe. And once I showed them, then I expect it to be done, and to be done right. If you can't, then ask questions. But I would never give an instruction and not explain how to do it. And I read something this morning about this one guy complaining about their leader, that the leader's in a panic about the business survival, and he's taking on all the opportunities and he's just barking them down the line. And at the moment, they are getting 3-4 instructions during the day in different directions, and he wants everything now. So everybody's in a panic. And everybody's not enjoying their job, so that the situation is becoming very toxic, and the leader is not getting the results because he is now sabotaging his own progress and his staff and everything else. So although he takes on a lot of new projects at the moment, he won't be able to do it because they can't at that pace. So he's disconnected. So I feel part of leadership, the most important part is to be connected to your staff at all times. Don't just give it and trust them and let them do it. They're not going to come back to you and say, we didn't do it, we can't. They're going to give you a half a washed lemon at the end of the day. And then the excuses will come through. So be involved in your staff.
No, that's a great advice. And I'm just wondering, do you think it happens because organizations invest so much in professional development of the leaders, but not enough on personal development? So it's that lack of self-awareness that can be causing this.
Yes, definitely. They focus on skills. Skills are nothing without emotional and spiritual IQ. Emotional IQ determines beliefs and patterns of behavior. Spiritual IQ determines who am I, what's my purpose while I'm doing this. And if you don't have that to back up your skills means nothing. You're not going to be able to to produce work that's really rising above the rest. It's just going to be a job. I don't want a company where I pay people to be in a job. They must come to work and be excited about it. They must love what they do. When they speak to clients, clients must be able to sense that, feel it, have the experience of it. Then you don't need to micromanage people.
I totally agree. Totally agree. So before we wrap up, I really wanted to, just give you the floor. Any tips you can give us, any inspiration you can give our viewers. I also wanted to say, Madelaine, you're an amazing woman. I'm so fortunate and grateful that I met you, and I think you're doing an amazing job. I think you also wrote a few books.
Yes, I wrote a book, and my second one is probably going to be published next week, and it's the big one. It's the actual one. The first one was just a run in of it, because I just had an overnight feeling I better put this in a book, and it's all my coaching work. But this one is a build-up of over the years. It's a build-up of my own journey when I went through a very dark time in my life, and I fell into the absolute bottom pit of darkness. And I said, how do I get out of here? My own awakening. And how do I get out of here? I knew who I was because I went through that already, but then something else happened to me. And that put me into tremendous trauma and stress. And I lost everything. I had to close my business. I had to move away from my home as it is for the safety of my son and myself. And I lost everything. And so this journey was shown divinely to me of how to reprogram my chakras and heal my programming within my whole body. And that became a program. So that is what I'm writing about, the I Am Possible.
Without knowing that, you look to me like an amazing woman. Now you have to tell us when the book is out. I definitely need to read it.
Yeah.
Thank you. It will be out next week. I'm just busy editing it. It's done. It's finished. I'm just editing it and make sure I'm happy with it. And then we will publish it and see where it takes. My dream is to actually travel and teach only that.
Yeah. So I cut you off on inspirational words you want to share with us about humanity in general and where we're going.
It's difficult, but everyone's journey is so unique. So therefore, I want to say, be unique. Stop comparing yourself to others. Because God didn't make you to be like others. God didn't make you to compare yourself to others. You've got a unique fingerprint within you. You've got a unique template within you. And when you discover that, all the stress will fall away. Because your life will flow, it will be effortless because you get guided and you're in your flow. But while you're not in your flow and you compare yourself and you think you're not good enough and you think that you're not good enough to be loved and accepted, that's exactly what you bring into your life. But that's also part of programming that we received as children. So somewhere along the line in your life, you need to decide, where am I going to step in and say, this is my life? And the past programming is just a foundation, but it's not who defines me.
And I think you just touched on something really important earlier, how you were telling us you went through quite a dark time in your life, right? But now when you look at it, it was almost a blessing, wasn't it? It was, because it really enabled you to dig so much deeper within yourself, to unpeel all of the layers to get to the truth of who you are. And now you're inspiring people to do the same when you've got the book. And that's what I'm just saying, like how you said, every journey is so unique. And sometimes we do perceive the situation to be so dark, so hard, not realizing that on the other side, it really shapes us into a person who we're always meant to be.
I'm always
We
telling my
can't
kids,
see. We can't see it, but you know, when you're in the storm, it's very difficult. And but you just know that the tears that you are crying is washing you clean and cleansing those layers and layers that's not serving you anymore. So when my husband passed away, I was a director of a top 10 company, and I was very well known. I worked with politicians and everyone. Did I see for a minute I'm going to be a doctor in metaphysical science, a pranic healer, and a spiritual teacher? Never. It was so far removed from who I was. But deep inside me, when I asked the question, I knew, because I think something in me remembered my past lives, but also I remember when I was born that there was something about healing different. There was always something different about me. And I always tried to fit into the mold, which I did fantastically. But then I had the opportunity to say, who am I? I'm not this. I want to know more. When I had to close my company because my business got targeted by a crime syndicate, I went into that dark night of my soul. But out of that, the program I Am Possible came. That was born during that time. And it's life-changing. I taught this to women in Kenya, in the refugee camps, and it changed their lives. And it evolved over the time. And then the last dark night of my soul, I call it, that I went through was in 2021, when I went back to the area where all my trauma happened, because my mum's there, and all my stuff in storage got burned down to the floor during the looting. I lost everything, my clothes, my books, my studies, my certificates. Every single thing of mine was in storage, and it got burned down into ashes. And I was living in this beautiful little cottage in a bush, beautiful nature bush. And all I had with me is just a little bit that I had with me. And when I got through the anger, I thought, okay, now all material goods are gone. So this has been traveling with me all over the show, from storage to storage, no more. So the storage time is now over. I don't need any of that. And it's now 2023, and I haven't really bought clothes. And I thought I've got no clothes because I was used to these crates of everything. And I'm still fine. I cope fine. I have scaled down my life to literally only the basics. And I am happy. I don't even have a car, and I'm happy. And I always used to drive sports cars. So, you know, life takes you on a journey. When that happened, I could never predict that it's going to be me. But obviously, if you surrender and you just follow the journey, it sorts itself out. I had so many miracles in these last 2 months that I don't want to discuss now because it's too personal. But honestly, it was at times when I sat here, because I have to embrace this journey. You ask me, how do you make a transition? Believe me, there's certain times when you have a calling, when you have no choice. If you don't take the calling, you will knock on doors that will never open. And that's what happened to me. I knock on doors. I applied for jobs because I don't want to have another major company. I don't mind to manage one. I don't mind to be a director of one because I can do my work still, but I don't want one. And doors wouldn't open for me. Nowhere. I can scale down. I can scale up. I can do what I like. If I am not in this flow of the I Am Possible program, no door opened for me.
I'm getting chills, seriously.
And I have pushed every button in heaven. I have tried, and the more I've tried in certain directions to make it work so that at least I can have an earning and I can feel better, that's the wrong door.
Yep.
And it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's this how universe works in ways. If this is out of alignment, you get to the stage in your path where it's like, no, it's like, no, you do have to scale down. You do have to reevaluate everything. And I think it's, you know, it's all about making you like more humble, right?
Yes.
Appreciating,
Yes.
like waking up is like, okay, what am I grateful for? For my bed.
Yes.
Like,
that's
what are
me.
those things?
That's me. You
For my
know,
bed, for the clouds.
yes, yes, that's me, because it's things that you take for granted that you don't see every day, but when you're nearly there to lose it, all of a sudden you appreciate it. But it's also stripping away that ego so that you can surrender and accept.
And I think it's a beautiful place to say thank you, Madelaine. It was a pleasure. Please let us know when the book is out. I will definitely read it. I'm sure Lena is.
Oh, well.
Good luck and continue your great work and benefit to the world. Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you, both of you.
Thank you
so
for
much.
hours. Yeah, thanks, Madelaine.
Thank you.